you come to my office hours, you see me, you talk to me after class, something like, what do you assume about me? They would lead you to switch, to code switch.
Well, one,
You know, why you talk to that like John over there, and he'll be like, what are you saying to me? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, you grew up in Philly. Like, you know all these words that I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But I guess because it's like the younger generation,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, because he's old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's not old, but he's old.
Old like me?
No. No.
Right. Oh, he's not that old? All right. Let's talk about this for a second. Like, what's proper, really? Language is language, right? So what's proper?
at least to me, proper is
Why are you going to do that?
To speak that way?
Yeah.
Just to look professional,
And you want to look professional because...
so they can take you seriously.
And you want them to take you seriously because...
When you're talking about code switching, do you think environment plays a bigger role, or do the people the people and population around you plays a bigger role?
Do you guys get offended when a white American code switches around you? Like, how does that make you feel? Not like you code switching. How does somebody code switching to you make you feel?
When you say code switching, we're referring to a temporary identity. So
Yeah.
When does that temporary identity become a permanent identity?
It's kind of an odd term, really, code switching, because it kind of, in a way, it's not obvious. If English isn't your first language, it's not obvious, and even if it is, it's not obvious. But, you're adjusting your speech, your appearance, your behavior to blend in with others around you. And it's not necessarily blending in with the majority. We often use it like that because it's often people who are minoritized in some way who talk about this. But we all do it, so...
So being that I am black, I've experienced many times meeting new white people, especially here at college. I'm from New York, so I didn't understand a lot of the Philly lingo and whatnot, but I've had people come up to me and I guess speak to me in a way where using certain terms like John and certain things where it's like, I know you don't speak like that. You don't have to speak to me like that because you're trying to appeal to me being black or whatever it is. But yeah, that's one example I could say where I've experienced.
When would you code switch, like with a professor, let's say?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the way I would speak to my friends at home wouldn't be the same way that I speak to you.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't speak the same way to maybe people in my major or people in my classes.
Uh-huh.
Just because there's a different objective, we share a different goal. It was for many different reasons, but it's just, I guess, the way that you choose to speak, the language that you use.
So you come to my office hours, you see me, you talk to me after class, something like, what do you assume about me? They would lead you to switch, to code switch.
Well, one, you're my professor, you're also my elder, so I wouldn't use cuss words. I would try not to use too much slang.
Nayeli, how about you? An example?
Honestly, I was going to say like kind of the same thing. Like being from Philly, I'm from North Philly, so it's not very many white people there. And I would say just coming here, it's like there's a lot of white people here. No offense. But it's just like how I talk to my friends at home or like my friends from New York, I'm not going to talk to like some random white girl like that because she might like get offensive. And I'm not trying to be offensive, but yeah.
Can you like slip into a conversation? Can you go there?
Okay. Basically, I was dead talking to her the other day about how I did in like this live stream.
Yeah.
And we was wilding over it because I was reading the comments too afterwards. And low-key, nobody even came for me, which I thought was crazy. And we was laughing about that because, I don't know, because of what I said. And yeah, basically.
All right, so you go right in there. So I follow, but I hear it.
Yeah.
Now say the same thing. You're talking to your professor.
Okay, so the other day we were talking about the live stream and how the questions you're asking me, maybe the things I was saying, and we just thought it was kind of crazy, the replies we were getting in the YouTube comments.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. It's just right there. Okay. So you switch up with your friends. Do you switch? Do you do it with your parents too, or do you?
Honestly, I have a really hard time switching with my parents because I use slang kind of no matter who I'm talking to. So sometimes like I'll talk to like my dad and I'll be like, yo, like, you know, why you talk to that like John over there, da da da, and he'll be like, what are you saying to me? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, you grew up in Philly. Like, you know all these words that I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But I guess because it's like the younger generation,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, because he's old. Well, he's not old, but he's old.
Old like me?
No. No.
All right. Oh, he's not that old? All right.
So for me, I guess it's a little different. I only see code switching when I'm in between countries.
Okay.
I'm a very different person there and here. And I wouldn't say that I fully belong to the way people communicate there. And I cannot say the same thing about America too.
So when you're there, when you're in Russia, how are you different? Like, how can you? I'm going to give you an example. When I speak Spanish, when I'm in Latin America in particular, Spain actually also, I'm really funny. I just get funny immediately. I go into my comedic side, and so people think I'm really a jokester because I'm always making jokes. But I don't normally do that. Like, I wouldn't do it. But I just automatically go into that space. Okay, well, sometimes I do. With Irvin, I do. But okay, go ahead. How can you explain how you're different?
When I come to America, I have to be a little like, hello, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Russia, it's more like, you know, I'm
Very
calm.
low-key.
Yeah, very low key. Yeah, I talk like, you know, like normally, like I talk to you
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, there's
No, but I know Russian culture. Like, it's very subdued.
very low key. That's why people think
Yeah.
we're always like angry and mad at
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
We're just like relaxed, you know?
You always ask me why Russian people never smile and why Russian people sound that rude. My friends, I'm telling you, it's probably because of our accent. That's why. Because when I don't speak with my Russian accent, I don't sound like a rude or not friendly person because my voice becoming softer. But when I speak with my Russian accent, everyone thinks that I want to rob them or attack or do something not really good.
I'm also like not fully like that. I'm too much for Russians.
Yeah.
And not enough for Americans. So I'm
Okay.
kind of in between. But here I'm switching to this like.
I like a bigger
Yeah.
personality. You know, so my wife and I lived in Prague in the Czech Republic right after the fall of the wall, but this was not right after, but in 96. And I would go out on the streets. So this is imagine, see, you weren't born then, but this is right after, you know, the transition away from communism, right? And, you know, people, people are very guarded, right? Do your parents and grandparents talk about that?
Yeah.
Can you say, like, kind of to the class, like how people were guarded under the Soviet Union?
Oh yeah. Like based on what my parents told me, it was terrible. Like this will never ever happen in America. It was just imagine you live in a box with like cameras. You cannot say anything. You cannot like voice your opinion. So it's not what's happening here right now at all. Like it's a different reality. I don't want to compare it to like to another country.
Yeah.
We all think about it probably right now.
Like China.
I was about to say in North
Saudi
Korea.
Arabia, dude. No, it's not like that. Yeah. Okay, listen. Yeah, North Korea. Okay, listen. So when we were in Prague, I would go out, I'm me, right? And always when I travel, I'm just like more outgoing and I'm more expressive in the way I am, but especially when I'm in a Spanish-speaking country. But I would go to the streets and we would buy, let's say, every morning I would go to buy food and we'd pass people and I'd be walking past them like, I'd say in Czech, you know, I learned Czech words, hello, you know, and people would never look at me and they would always just look down, and if they were looking at me, he said something, they would look down and keep walking. And I would walk in stores and I'd say hello, and nobody would ever do anything and ever pay any attention to me whatsoever. And I talked to our friends there who lived in this apartment building that we rented, and they were like, dude, you can't do that here. Like, you have to change. Here, nobody will say hello and no one will talk to you. It's a little bit different now because things have changed, right? But
You should have tried asking them how are they. That would like definitely they will be like,
yeah,
Who, me?
exactly, because it was just this world. So I had to learn exactly what you're saying. I really had to learn to tone it down, like code switch, right? And with certain people I knew, I could be out of it. It's like, okay, how about code switching? Does this ring a bell for you? Are there places?
Yeah, of course, yeah, but not in English. I mean, Arabic mostly.
How in Arabic?
So, there's lots of different accents and dialects in just Saudi Arabia alone, other than like the rest of the world. So, like growing up, my mom spoke a different dialect than my dad, or my dad's family and my mom's family. So that kind of switching, even to like culture. So it's kind of a bit different. So switching from there, you code switch every day, even with friends, with people,
Do you have any examples? Any of you have any examples of not code switching, and then having it come back and like kind of kick you in some way? Like you didn't code switch. You're like, oh man, I should have done that.
Honestly, for me, I go to like PR a lot. So everyone there speaks Spanish, and they speak English, but not like the type of English like that I speak.
Yeah.
Not saying that. I'm just saying because I'm from Philly. So
Yeah.
anyways. So like when I talk to people there, I can't sit there and be like, yo, like, can I get that John with like the thing, yo, like stuff like that. I can't say that to them because then they're gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Like, one, why are you not speaking my language? You're in my country. And then two, what are these words that you're telling me?
Do people know that you've grown up in the U.S.?
They could tell.
Yeah.
They can always tell.
Do you ever try to hide it from them?
Sometimes, but I don't speak Spanish, like a little bit, but not very well. So it's kind of like easy, especially like I feel like a lot of times with the way you dress too, it's very easy to tell who's American and who's not.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, how about speaking Spanish then? So are you around how often are you around people who speak Spanish, Hispanics, right? And you kind of pretend you're just not really being overtly open about the fact that you don't speak Spanish. You'll sort of, because that's the type of code switching.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of times when I meet like new people who are Hispanic and they speak Spanish, I'll tell them like, yeah, like I understand, but I don't speak. And a lot of times it gets scary kind of telling them like, oh yeah, I don't speak Spanish, because then they're like, but why you don't speak Spanish? Like you're insecure? You don't like it's like stuff like that. So I'd be like, yeah, no, I speak Spanish amazingly. I'm actually fluent.
But I just don't want to do it now. Yeah, like people will come at you in an odd way. Not really in a bad way. It could be like, wait, why don't you speak? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and then it's like, also, I feel like a lot of times when you try to learn, it's like, they're like, you're not doing it right, so just stop talking. And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I got you.
I wouldn't say I've had experience just like that, but being that my parents are from Guyana, both of them, they've been here for about 30, 40 years now. So at this point, at least to me, I don't hear an accent. So when we go around family or I'm around other Caribbean people, I think to them a lot of times I may seem very Americanized, or like I don't have that side of my culture, just because I didn't grow up hearing an accent as much, or I don't know a lot of the terms. Or
do you find yourself trying to really emphasize the accent? It's because the Guineanese accent it's a really interesting.
Yeah. At times when I'm more with family, because if I'm being honest, I don't meet a lot of Guyanese people anywhere. But when I'm with family, definitely when you're talking, like I think subconsciously I don't try to do it. I like catch myself slipping into a little accent or saying things that I hear them say. So stuff like that. But
so you say you hear them say something, you say it. It's like the code switching is all about, it's like trying to fit in with others around you. So you're saying like, I'm trying to fit in with my family members in this way. Yeah. How often do you feel like you try to act white to fit in? Whatever that means to you, right? I'm gonna throw that out there. Like, how often do you find yourself acting white?
When it comes to speaking like to peers or people my age, I I feel like I don't try to act white. I think around certain demographics, like when I'm around more white people, I tend to speak more proper. Like that usually is, they associate that with being white, but I try to speak more proper. I don't use certain words that I would with my black friends or whatnot.
Well, but what is let's talk about this for a second. Like, what's proper, really?
I mean,
language is language, right? So what's proper?
At least to me, proper is speaking with a decent vocabulary, lack of slang, no cussing.
Yeah, but John is a cool when you start open up your vocabulary to lots of these other words, what you're doing is you're expanding the range of words that you can use. And so I'm from the Midwest, and when we think about speaking, people will often point, like if you go anywhere in the country, this is less true today, but it has historically very much been true, and you watch local newscasts from anywhere in the country, whether it's the South or the West, everybody has my accent, a middle American accent. So the people from the South, they do the newscast, the weather report on the news channel in Savannah, Georgia, 40 years ago. The person sounds like me. I'm like, nobody's in Savannah, Georgia. I was in Savannah, Georgia. Nobody sounds like me. But that person did, because that's what was seen, right? So
new Dateline 13 weather centers are more than pretty walls and colorful maps. Now our Greenville and Asheville centers are exclusive receiving stations for hourly satellite pictures from the only space station covering the Carolinas. Heretofore, you've only seen pictures taken earlier in the day, but now we show you up-to-the-minute pictures of weather systems as they cross the Carolinas and change our weather.
Okay, so, hey y'all. So the instructions are to say these words, so I'm going to read the list. Okay, ant, route, wash, oil, theater, iron, salmon, caramel, fire, water, sure, data, ruin.
Why do you do that, by the way?
Well, I think for multiple things. One, my dad growing up, he always taught me and my brother that we can't speak the way that we would speak at home or with our friends because we would be looked at differently. So he told me, he calls it the Queen's English.
The what English?
The Queen's English.
Queen's English.
That's what he calls it. So he always wanted us to speak very proper, or what I call proper.
Yeah.
Also in school, I've gotten a mix of both. I've been told that I speak like I'm white, that I'm not black because of the way I speak. And then for certain things that I say, I've been told the opposite. Like you're speaking like a hoodlum or whatever.
Percent of U.S. college grads who say that they often or sometimes feel the need to code switch. Okay? So notice that almost half of black people. Can you say something about that? What do you understand about black people that black people will want to code switch?
Like, why would they code switch?
Yeah, what have you learned about black people in the U.S.?
I mean, like what he said, sorry, I forgot his name.
Ashton,
like what he said. I agree with what he said, to be honest.
What did he say?
He said that, like, he wants to speak proper, like, as the, what they call it, they associate proper with white people. That's what he said, I think.
Yeah.
But
why, though? What's the reason?
I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Why would he want? Like, why would he care? First maybe I don't like using the word proper. I get the proper thing. People, man. There's probably enough people watching. Any of you, I get the proper thing. But look, man, language is a really fascinating, dynamic thing, and I'm not into, hey, just speak any way you want and it's great. It's like, no, I get it in certain situations. You're going to have to, if you don't speak so-called proper, then you're going to pay the price for it. Whatever, right? It's all good. I was meeting with someone today, and I dropped an F-bomb, and I said to myself immediately, oh man, I let myself go. I just let myself go. I lowered my guard. I'm like, should I have dropped that F-bomb right there in the middle of it? And then I went, I didn't code switch correctly enough, you know what I mean? Or whatever enough. So So I want to be just careful. But the proper thing, it's like, no, there's a certain way of speaking.
Yeah, like, I mean, how would you speak to, like, let's say if you're in a court, like, would you speak that way to a judge, you know? Or, you know, like, there's certain levels, like, I don't know what you guys call it, you know, but...
So you have the same thing in Saudi
Oh,
Arabia?
yeah, we do.
So there's a way of speaking this Arabic.
Well, depends on the setting, but yeah.
That you're gonna follow a certain standard of speech patterns.
Yeah.
And then you're not gonna go into any slang at all. No swear words.
No.
No nothing.
Rarely, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is pretty universal. You're gonna do that. Why are you gonna do that?
To speak that way?
Yeah.
You know, just to look professional, you know?
And you want to look professional because...
So they can take you seriously.
And you want them to take you seriously because...
To get what you want.
To get what you want, to advance yourself in some way. And when you don't do that, you just experience the consequences of it.
Yeah, because I think that people associate that, like, slang and that type of speech as to, like, they're probably, like, lazy, slouchy or something like that.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
So when you present yourself in a well-mannered way, you know, you get what you want.
Well-mannered.
Yeah.
By well-mannered, you mean a way that is accepted by the majority of the mainstream people.
Exactly.
In a culture.
Yes.
As being socialized. And Dylan from Sutter, now living in Philly. I was wondering if your parents ever noticed certain habits you've picked up from being around Americans. Oh, man, Dylan, great questions. How about for the two of you?
I guess they didn't. Because when I come back, the only thing that I do that is a little different from the time when I was living in Russia, I would use a little bit of, like, English words in my speech. And I think that's basically it. Back in Russia, I would be, like, very, like, if he wants to do that, he should do that. If she wants to do that, she should do that, like, that and that. And when I moved to America, I saw how people here sometimes feel that they have, like, they can do anything they want sometimes. It's like...
Much more, just like greater sense of personal autonomy.
Yeah, like, you know how people sometimes feel too much freedom.
Yeah.
And when this freedom comes to the point that it interferes with someone else's freedom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I notice it here, and you know, it should be the other way around. You live outside of America and you're, like, very, like, conservative and everything, and you move to America and you're like, freedom, yay. And it was the other way for me. So maybe I think my parents noticed that in me too.
Yeah. Huh. It's very subtle, but it's big.
Yeah. I realized that, you know, freedom also should be, like, to the point.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
To some extent.
Like directed at something.
Yeah.
I see the same thing I see it in the Arab Middle East, by the way, a similar thing, but I also see it a lot in Korea. Do the two of you ever, when you're among Arabic-speaking people or Russian-speaking people, do you ever drop English words to let them know that you speak English? Just as, like, to signal, the code switch signal thing?
No, for me it happens naturally sometimes, and then people make fun of me, like, oh my God, why are you talking like that?
Yeah, okay, I got you. All right. Do you ever do that? Do you ever just drop English words in?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But
just to signal to people?
Well, not to signal that, oh, I know English, but, you know, it just happens casually.
Okay, I got
you. It's not something, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
When you're talking about code switching, do you think environment plays a bigger role, or do the people in the people and population around you plays a bigger role? Or is the location where you are, if you're doing a specific task, would that be a bigger role?
Dude, that's a question that's such a cool question. It's a big question. Do you have an answer to it?
I mean, yeah, it always depends on the place, the setting, the people I'm around with. It always depends on that, you know. It's like it's why I code switch, because of those people, because of those certain tasks or something.
So, as four different people with very different cultures, and me being a white American, I tend to code switch a lot. My boyfriend, he's also black, and his friends are also black. So sometimes I'll notice myself code switching. Do you guys get offended when a white American code switches around you? Like, how does that make you feel? Not like you code switching. How does somebody code switching to you make you feel?
Yeah, hang on to the microphone because I want to ask you a question. How about the two of you? Do you have that? Well, you said it. Some people will use John with you.
Yeah. For me, honestly, it kind of like it's based on tone. If I feel like you're mocking me, then I'm gonna get a little bit offended. But if we're having a conversation and you pick up on some of my words, I feel like it's not that deep for me to be like, why are you talking like that? You don't talk like that. Unless it's like used like mockingly for me. That's
yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Because I have white friends at home who grew up with me and all my friends, and they like there's certain words or things they'll use. But to me, it's about how genuine it sounds. Like if you come across as trying to purposely use this slang because you know I'm black and you think that I speak a certain way, then it's like. But if I could tell you're just being yourself and you just pick up on things quickly, then I think that's different.
Hey, have you always lived in Westchester?
Oh yeah, my whole life.
Because you have, I hear this like southern, this drawl in you. That must be the thing, what you get from your parents.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are both pretty old, so I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Hey, how do you code switch around your black boyfriend's black friends?
Sometimes, like, if we're all, like, just out and about, like, talking and whatever, like, I'll start to get, like, kind of like a tone to my voice, and I'm noticing it because they're all talking with this tone, and now I'm talking with this tone. Whereas with my, like, girlfriends, I talk how I talk right now. And so some, like, they love it. They kind of make fun of me for it, so I've just noticed myself, like, adapting to the way that they talk. And
you're not... And why are you adapting? Just because you are? Because you're just around people? I just think
it might be just me wanting to feel like a part of the group and not like an outsider. And just more or less like fit into the conversation better.
Yeah. Well, that's why we all code switch, right? Yeah. You know, when I speak in, if I were teaching this class in the way that if you were at my house and we were sitting around drinking some beers, I just don't speak in the same way, so to speak, right? Have you had people tell you, hey, like, don't switch over?
No, I haven't. I mean, I'm grateful that my boyfriend's friends are the way that they are and that he is the way that he is, because sometimes, like, he'll be like, he'll kind of warn me before, like, going somewhere, because I am white and all of his friends aren't. He's just like, hey, don't do this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, great. He's like, but be yourself. But don't do this. So it's just an adaptation that I kind of picked up being with him.
Okay, it's an adaptation. Just like when I was telling the story about being in Prague and walking down the street and saying hello to everybody. And my Czech friends had to tell me, dude, you gotta tone it down. People think you're mentally ill. You know? Literally, that's what they told me. Like, they think you have some kind of mental illness thing. Like, you really need to tone it down. And so that's how life is, you know? Yeah, that's cool. All right.
As a black person, I know that code switching is really tied to like opportunities you get and like kind of navigating systemic oppression. So I was wondering if you guys think the way you code switch ever impacts like the opportunities you get, or whether or not someone like respects your character. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like really an opportunity thing here. You know, like historically speaking in the U.S., it's the passing thing for black Americans, right? So when you're coming out of slavery, let's say the lighter skin you have, the more likely you are to be able to pass as white. And like, it is opportunities. Because in spite of what there is discrimination in the world. There is some discrimination. I don't know how much, but there is. And so one of the things is switching to reduce or limit the likelihood that you will experience some kind of discrimination. Do you have a sense of that that's why people, or you, either one?
I have like a strong opinion on that. I don't like to code switch. Like when I talk to adults or like when I talk to someone else, I really don't like using some like other language that I use with like my friends. I think because probably by saying opportunities, sometimes you mean like a job interview, for example, right?
Yeah, something. Yeah.
I think that when you're interviewing for a job and you're code switching, the interviewer sees another person. Okay, so if it helps you get a job, then you will be working for several years doing the job and not being yourself. Do you really need it?
Maybe if you continue to do that, if you continue to play that persona, and sometimes people code switch and they don't have to code. It's people make it a bigger thing in their minds than it is, but it's real. Look, I just gave you the example of 4C hair. It's like, come on, man. If that's happening in the military, then like here we go. So, but you're saying, yeah, but if you do that, you're sort of stuck in this other persona.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if it's not yours, it's not yours.
I got you.
Yeah, find something that is yours.
But you, as a Russian, if you were here and you experienced, discrimination, not every day, but but you knew that, hey, this is really possible to feel some discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
You might see that a little differently.
Yeah, I see that a little differently. The thing is, I just try to explain. If I have the energy and if I see that person just doesn't understand, that I'm like, I don't know, I'm Russian, I have a little different way of talking to people.
Yeah.
If he refuses to understand, okay, that's not my problem. But if he wants to understand, I would just explain it. That's it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
To me, code switching is like something you do temporary. So when it goes against your identity for like a short period of time, you tend to code switch. But if you've been in a certain environment for a very long time, your identity begins to change itself.
Dude, yeah.
So when your identity is changed for a prolonged period of time, you're not code switching at that point because it just becomes you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to like why, when you say code switching, we're referring to a temporary identity. So when does that temporary identity become a permanent identity?
That it's really interesting because when we started, like for Ashton here, he's not really even certain. I suspect you code switch a lot more than you even realize, but it's become part of his identity now. And so he doesn't even know. And Sophia at the top, as she keeps dating her black boyfriend, or she dumps him and dates another black guy, right? And dumps him and dates another black guy, eventually at some point in time, she's just her identity around, as a white woman around black people is going to just start to expand, and then that's going to be part of who she is.
But I was going to say I agree, but I also think that with code switching, I think that when you start to change yourself as a person, I think that's another topic. To me, code switching is more strictly how I speak, how I carry myself. It's not me changing my interests, the things I like to do. It's not me changing anything about like myself in terms of what I enjoy or anything like that. It's more about how I carry myself. So it wouldn't change anything about me as a person.
Yeah, I got you. With time,
over time it can. Yeah.
Just like when you marry a Shia woman, dude, and you find yourself praying like this. Damn, come back and let me know. All right, hey, can we have a round of applause for these folks?